Journey of faith. Roger started us off this month with the statement, which is absolutely true, that we all have our own journeys of faith. And this is an opportunity, being here in Unity is an opportunity to share our journeys with each other. But certainly, speaking on sharing our journeys is a definite opportunity to share our journeys with each other. So I'd like to start out with the very first thing that ever struck my mind as being something about faith. And that was when I was very small. I was raised in the Missouri Synod Lutheran Church. For those of you who are familiar with that, know that it's a very repressive organization in a lot of different ways. And
Baptists of the Lutheran Church.
yeah, exactly, yeah. And the story that struck me when I was little, that has just stuck with me my whole life about faith, is the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I mean, for heaven's sakes, here were these three people who refused to bow down to this golden image that King Nebuchadnezzar had made. And the penalty for not bowing down was you get thrown in a fiery furnace. And they said to him, "Oh, we're not afraid, we will be fine." Going into a fiery furnace, you'll be fine? And lo and behold, they were fine. They came back out, and not a hair on their heads had been singed. And it was like, whoa, as a little kid, it was like, man, this is useful, I guess. If I ever get thrown in a fiery furnace, maybe I'll be saved, but anyhow, it was pretty powerful in some respects. But you know, the point in my young life that really was the turning point, the point where Joan, I think, would agree is when I swallowed the blue pill and set off on a different path, was when I was a senior in high school. On Easter Sunday, for whatever reasons, which was very unusual, and I don't know what it was, my family was late going to church that morning. We always sat 2/3 of the way down on the left-hand side. You know how that was, you know, if you all grew up in churches, you always had your pew where you always sat. Well, we got there too late. Couldn't get to that one, so we sat in the very, very back. Went through the whole entire service. You know, this is Easter Sunday, the happiest day of the church year. The day of, yes, we are saved, resurrection, he is risen, etc., etc., etc. And because we were at the very back, when the service ended, and the organist was pounding out those triumphant chords of deep, resonating, yo! Everybody in the congregation stood up and turned around to leave, and I got a chance to look at all their faces. None of them were smiling. Not a single person was smiling. And at that point in my young life, I said to myself, there's something wrong here. This doesn't fit with what faith and belief is supposed to be. On this happiest day, these people are not smiling. I never went back to that church. And for 20 years, I didn't do much of anything until my husband-to-be brought me to Unity. And when I came to Unity, it was just like Evie said last week. It felt like coming home. I'm sure a lot of you had that experience of walking in, and it isn't even anything you know in your head because you don't know anything about this. What are these people? Who are they anyway? You don't know that in your head. You feel it in your heart that you are home. And that, I think, is where faith starts. It has to start in your heart. So I'm really glad that my husband-to-be brought me to Unity all those many years ago. And I have been trying to figure out this part of what Unity is about ever since. And you know, I have this distant memory of what things were like a little more than 2 years ago. You know, when coming to Unity was something that was joyous, that, as you probably remember, I was a hugger. I used to really like hugging people, and a lot of folks I hugged really liked getting hugged back. To me, it was a heart connection, and it was a joyous thing. But you know, the one part of all of this that I've always had trouble with, from the very beginning, was the have fun part. through all those years, we'd stand around in our circle after service, and we'd get to the last line, and we'd all say, have fun, and I would be right there saying, have fun, and then I would go back to my house, and I'd say, what does that mean? What is having fun? It was always tough for me to figure that one out. And I think it's because, being raised in the Missouri Synod Lutheran Church, life is supposed to be serious. It's supposed to be something that, you really take, and you're not flippant with it, you're not light with it, you're heavy, life heavy. And it's hard to figure out how to be light and fun-filled when you've had that kind of a background growing up. But I was getting there. I really was getting there. I was gradually realizing that it was okay to have fun. And not only is it okay, but it's essential, because who wants to join a religion where everybody's going around like this? I certainly didn't. So having fun is a core part of what we need to be doing. And I had reached a point just before COVID started where I think I actually had an experience that was total fun. It was a birthday party that I was hosting. And I prepared all the stuff well in advance, got it all out there, and I just let go of any feeling of responsibility for how everybody had a good time or anything, and I just enjoyed myself. I just had a really good time at this party. And what happened as a result is that the people who came to the party, they all had a good time too. They made connections. It was about 25 people. Many of them had never met each other before. And afterwards, many of them came back and said, that was one of the most fun parties I've been to. And the reason they kept saying, was because I realized that I knew that person, or that we had a person in common. They were all connecting with each other in ways that were real and tangible and felt in the moment. And I thought, whoa, this is so cool. I think I got it. And then COVID hit. And all of my comfort level things that I did in the world to feel like I really was acting on my faith, like hugging people and radiating this loving presence, all that stuff, all disappeared. And, faith, one of the things that the 12 Powers book says about faith, it says, faith is the rock. How we perceive ourselves is the rock that is the foundation of our lives. And how I was able to perceive myself over the last almost 2 years now has really, unfortunately, gotten much worse as a result of COVID. And that brief glimpse I had of what it was like to actually be that person who can radiate love yes, here. What is faith? Let me just take a moment here to just read to you what is said in this book about faith. It's not said by her, it's said by somebody else. Just a moment, page 41. This is from Winifred Wilkinson Hausman, and she defines faith this way. Faith is that quality in us which enables us to look past appearances of lack, limitation, or difficulty, to take hold of the divine idea and believe in it, even though we do not see any evidence of it except in our mind. Through faith, we know with an inner knowing that truth has not yet expressed in our manifest world. And Linda Martella-Whitsitt goes on to make 2 more statements about faith that I think really resonate with what I think faith really needs to be. One statement she makes is, the fruit of faith is a peaceful mind. Let me just repeat that. The fruit of faith is a peaceful mind. When we have really deep faith, we don't need to be worried about anything. We can just have a peaceful mind. And the other statement she makes is that faith is demonstrated by a general sense of joyous anticipation. Joyous anticipation. You put all those together and you just say, oh yeah, that's what faith is. And that's where I was before COVID hit. So I have some lessons that I would say I've learned them, but I can't really say I've learned them. I can only say that I'm grappling with them at this point. But I wanted to share them with you to see if maybe some of these resonate with you as well. My first, I have two big lessons that I think I'm grappling with COVID and with faith. The first lesson is that our prayers for others can be twisted by fear. You know, I started out thinking, okay, I'm going to just pray for the whole world to just, be wonderful and get through this. And gradually over time, my prayers kind of started changing to sort of saying, I'm going to pray that these people get their act together and start doing the right thing. And then I realized, gosh, I don't feel very fulfilled anymore by making that prayer. What's going on here? And I realized, well, what is oneness actually? What is oneness anyhow? Oneness really is not praying for the whole world to think the same way you do. That really isn't oneness. Everybody has their own paths, their own things. They're all, they're going to think what they're going to think. And it finally dawned on me, probably not until about November of this last year, after a year and a half of this increasingly more miserable praying for the world, it finally occurred to me that, Jesus came at a time of very turbulent political stuff going on in the world. And he didn't fix it. That wasn't why he was here. That's not what oneness is all about. So if Jesus could come at a time of great political turmoil and live his life and do all the things he did and set us off all on this path of wonderful understanding of who we really are as divine beings and not fix the political turmoil that he was living in, then what makes me think I'm supposed to fix the political turmoil I'm living in, for heaven's sakes? That's not why we're here. We're here to be divine, radiant beings of love. And to love unconditionally, even all those people who are so screwed up and doing the wrong thing. So I had to change my prayers. I had to go back and say, okay, fine. All right. I can't keep praying that they see the light in that sense. I have to just go back and pray unconditionally for oneness. And at the time, this vision came in that really helped me understand that. And it was this vision of us all being connected, like a current in a river. We're all at the deeper level of this current in the river. We're all connected. We're all part of the same thing. And then you go up on the surface and you see all these waves. And they're all crashing into each other and they're all chaotic and going in different directions. And that's just the waves on the surface. We don't need to be worried about that. What we need to be really worried about, or not worried about, that's the wrong term. What we need to focus on is that deep current underneath that connects us all. And that's what oneness is. It's not agreement about X, Y, or Z. It's that feeling of love and connection that we have. For everyone, everywhere. That's oneness. It was very reaffirming to get Unity Magazine's recent issue and find an article by Gary Zukav. I don't know how many of you had a chance to read this one. It's called Creating Authentic Power. Gary Zukav, some of you may remember him. He's the one who wrote Dancing with the Wu Li Master, the Dancing Wu Li Masters. He also wrote a book called Seed of the Soul, which I'd forgotten about, but he's kind of an out there New Age thinker, thinking about how this all works. And he had some very interesting things to say in this interview that helped me, again, remind myself it's not about what's happening out there. So he's talking about an epic transformation of human consciousness that is going on right now. The evolution of our species as one whose perception is limited to what we can hear, see, taste, touch, and smell is coming to an end. And the evolution of a new human species that is not similarly limited has begun. And what does this transformation entail? It entails a new understanding of power. Power in the old consciousness is the ability to manipulate and control. This is external power, and it enabled us to survive. But now, the pursuit of external power creates only violence and destruction. It prevents our evolution. Power in the new consciousness is the alignment of the personality with the soul. As you align with your personality, as you align your personality with the intentions of your soul, you create authentic power. Creating authentic power is the new requirement of this transformation. And there is no right direction or wrong direction. There is only the direction that each individual decides to take. Each of those decisions then creates consequences. The universe is now teaching us, if we choose to learn, to become the authorities in our own lives, to recognize in ourselves what is constructive and what is destructive, what is love and what is fear, and to choose between them in each moment. So it's not about external power. It's about this connection we have within us. It's the distinction, to be able to distinguish between love and fear within ourselves, and to choose love all the time, no matter what is happening inside you, such as anger, rage, or jealousy, or even what is happening outside of you, such as 911 or a global pandemic. And what happens when you create this authentic power? Your life fills with meaning and joy. It becomes an experiment instead of an experience. Your heart opens. You give the gifts that you were born to give. You enjoy yourself, others, and the world. You become an artist, and your life becomes your canvas. You paint with beautiful pastels and vibrant colors because you're creating from love, instead of with dark and morose colors, those the ones that you chose when you were creating from fear. You move through Earth School with an empowered heart and without attachment to the outcome. Authentic power is the creation of joy within you, a joy that's not dependent upon what happens in the external world. Well, those are powerful words and a great vision to help reinforce what I discovered about my prayer being directed in the wrong way. But I had another lesson during COVID, too, that I wanted to share with you. It kind of harkens back to that same thing that happened to me way back when I first came to Unity. My feelings were telling me this is the right place. Feelings are very important because they tell us a lot. And my feelings for the last couple of years have increasingly been trying to tell me something, but I haven't been listening. Because my feelings for the last couple of years have been overtaken by this deep, old, tribal response to the experience of being isolated. So I looked up social isolation and ostracism and all that anthropological stuff about what happens to people like ancient tribal societies when they were cut out of the group, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, how important tribes are to us. And what I found is that there's a whole lot of research been done, but basically that we are meant to be social creatures. Initially, we couldn't survive if we didn't have a tribe. And so our sense of connection with people is very much tied to our sense of survival. And when we get cut off from being able to connect with our tribe. All kinds of things happen to us that have a lot more to do with our ability to survive than simply having trouble finding food and shelter. We lose our sense of belonging. Our self-esteem gets affected. We can lose our sense of meaningful existence. We get into depression, helplessness, feelings of unworthiness, anxiety, panic, stress, fear. And one of the ways this manifests is in increased cortisol levels in your body. Now for me, cortisol shows up as a heightened heartbeat and also as a feeling of anxiety and discomfort in my stomach. And I actually had been reaching a point gradually over the last year where I was waking up with that feeling every morning. And it wasn't going away. And I finally realized, probably sometime maybe in the fall, that I had to do something about it. That it wasn't ever going to go away if I didn't actually try to do something. But I hadn't realized at that point that that was what it was from. Well, fortunately, fate intervened. And it brought me into a situation where I made some trips. I actually went, I think what actually really triggered in me the fact that it needed to change was that my daughter and son-in-law came to visit in June, and I was so on edge, so hyper-vigilant during the whole time they were here that I really was never present and missed the whole opportunity to spend good time with them because I wasn't really here. So I started thinking about it, started working on it, and in October and November I had an opportunity to take some trips, and I had already kind of backed off a little bit and said to myself, okay, you got to just cool out, let this, get rid of this kind of feeling. So I saw a bunch of family, person to person, no masks, hugging. It was wonderful. It was like, oh yes, I need this. And finally, after those trips were over and I came back and we were heading into the Christmas season, I realized, the other part of all of this, what I can do for myself when I'm not able to connect with family and friends in that way, what I can do is be gentle with myself and allow myself to do the things that make me feel good, because I don't want to feel bad. The sense of being separate, it can have this feeling of punishment around it. And having grown up in the Missouri Synod Lutheran Church, I know a lot about punishment. I know about how to do punishment. I don't want to do punishment anymore. I want to be doing things that are affirming. And so I realized, I have to have fun. That's something that we all need to do. That's part of our way of feeding ourselves, is having fun. And I had reached a point where I said, okay, I need to do this, and I stopped and said, okay, have fun. And I couldn't even think of anything that would be fun to do. That's how far down I was. My goodness. Nothing came to mind. And then this little voice in the back of my head said, you're not going to let yourself have fun until you realize that you have an abundance of time. That you have an abundance of time to be able to do the things you need to do. And that you don't need to keep your nose to the grindstone all the time. And so I started affirming, I have an abundance of time, and ways of having fun started to come to me. And so I had some fun. And my whole mood lifted, and my feelings started to change, and I thought, yeah, that sense, that deep sense of feeling like a being of light and love, that takes conscious effort and work at this point in our lives. We can't just take it for granted. All of our usual methods of being able to have that be renewed and filled went out the window 2 years ago. We need to think about new ways to do that. So that's what I've been doing. So I wanted to then just end up with a few thoughts about how to do that. I went in and looked at some social psychology stuff, and of course we have our own Unity things that we do. And so let me just tick off the ones that I found here. The first one is we need to just give up any notion that things are going to get back to the way they were. Because that's just looking for things that is not going to happen. That's going to be frustrating. So what we do need to do instead is just be flexible and embrace what's happening with flexibility, whatever that change may be. And so, of course, today we're here today, and Missoula has higher case numbers than ever before. So we're flexible. We put on our masks and we go forward again, but know that just what we need to be doing. The second thing is that resilience is linked very closely to maintaining our interpersonal relationships and our membership with groups. So it's really good to be here today. And I think Linda has offered this many times in the past, but I think it's going to be something I might actually do in the future, which is to not be the Zoom queen every Sunday. And all of those of you on Zoom, my heart goes out to you, because being able to be physically present with people is an important thing that we can do for ourselves right now. And in the absence of that, having Zoom is certainly very helpful. But it's very important that we connect with each other in person. And if you think you're having some doubts right now, if you think that your feelings like anxiety and doubts and things of that sort, you're feeling those things and you're not sure where they're coming from, think about the possibility that they may simply just be the product of social isolation. There may be absolutely nothing else going on in you. It's not some sort of boogeyman coming up from your past. It's just our tribal selves missing our tribes and feeling bad. And we can do things about that, and we don't need to be thinking about, oh, what am I doing wrong, or what's wrong with me. It's just how we're built, and we can move on. And finally, to treat ourselves gently, to bring joy into your life in whatever way you can, to have fun, to appreciate the things that we can appreciate. You know, it is a wonderful world. The sun rises, the snow falls. We'll be heading into spring soon. There are amazing things there to be enjoyed. And those are going to be there in every day of our lives. So I'd like to end by doing a meditation on faith. I'm going to do the meditation that Linda Martellowitz has in the end of her chapter on faith. So I invite you all now to get comfortable. And those of you on Zoom, to get comfortable as well. Just allow ourselves to just be in this presence that we're in right now. Just allow our breath to slow. Allow our physical being to calm. Allow ourselves to come to that place of peace, that place of quietness. That place where we can turn our attention to the divine presence within. And I ask you to focus that attention on the center of your forehead, moving inward, right between the two hemispheres of your brain. Breathing in and breathing out. I bless this connecting link between the physical and the spiritual. Sensitive to the pulsing of life, the movement of energy, I shine the royal blue light of faith into the center of my brain. The spaces between the hemispheres brushed blue. I broadcast blue light throughout my brain and down through my body. A healing, streaming, royal blue that is my consciousness of faith. Faith is my ability to see what cannot be seen humanly. I activate this spiritual presence, courageously perceiving a greater truth than my physical senses report. I dare myself to see what cannot be seen by human eyes, but exists as surely as the sun exists behind a cloud. I perceive the bottom line truths about life, that life is irrepressible, eternal, and perfect in every stage and form. I stretch my capacity to see the good that can be in troubling situations. I envision possibilities, even in seemingly impossible circumstances. I am devoted to perceiving the good that can be. I am convinced that the nature of unseen good, the animating and harmonizing creative power behind that all I have and I experience, is my nature, and I am divine. I reach inward to my storehouse of faith, to remain faithful during times when my human brain cannot envision the magnificent possibilities of wholeness in life, of harmonious love, and of wealth beyond measure. I demonstrate conviction by living as love lives, as wholeness lives, as wisdom lives, as joy lives. I audaciously trust in universal goodness, so much that I rest deeply in the peace of spiritual assurance. By my innate power of faith, I live in positive expectancy. I center my attention in joyous anticipation, knowing all is well, truly. And it is so. Thank you, Spirit. Amen. So, I invite you back to this room, and I invite us all now to join in saying our prayer of protection. and together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.